Slurpty-dup, my G's, how you all fucking doing? I've got to be to the fucking 5 days graph and a fucking chevron on top, so I should be right. I hope you guys are doing well. Today I've got a sick phase plant bass using the granular synthesis again. Is he going to stop using it ever? No, probably not. It's wicked. I'm loving it. And yeah, movement-wise, it's kind of like a bass stab, I suppose. So like not the most craziest movement going on, but the sound design, in my opinion, is wicked. And yeah, I just thought I'd take this opportunity to record maybe a 10-minute video or so, so I can talk shit about phase plant for as long as possible. So thanks all of you guys for your recent comments, and thanks to the new people that subscribed. We've almost got 4,000 subscribers, like we're on the way there, which is epic. We're going to have a massive party when that happens in my pants, so this is going to be fun. Also, if you are watching this and you're not subscribed, can you do it, please? Like, just find like the tiny 1% bit of kindness left in your heart, you know. Maybe it's already gone. If there's maybe 0.5% left still, after you got unmatched by 17 different girls on Hinge yesterday, you know, if you can like find a little bit of, you know, sort of charity, then yeah, hit the subscribe button. And if you got a bit more, come along to Patreon, pay €1 a month, you get like loads of free stuff, including vital faceplant presets and more. Anyway, let's get into the video, because I'm sure you don't want me to scream at you about things for the entire duration of this 10 minutes. So anyway, here is the sound, which sounds like this. Yeah, really love this one, and a lot of intricate movements going on. There's a lot of stacking things on top of each other in a very subtle way, and I'm going to explain exactly how I made it and talk about each of the specific effects that I've used and why I like them. So let's crack on, starting off with the voicing section and the macros as well. So the macros, I've only got two. One is a wash, which is going to just add a bit of reverb and delay if we want that. Two is a Tony. So you remember old Tony? You know, used to work the streets back in the day, and he used to get the best stuff. But yeah, he went to jail for a few years. He's recently come out, and I think within a day he was back on the streets doing his thing. So yeah, good luck to Tony. Anyway, what I like to do with Tony, so shaping the tone of the sound, of course. Well, maybe not, of course. You probably don't have any idea what I'm talking about if you've just joined the channel. But basically, I'm weird. Anyway, I like to use the word Tony as a replacement for the word tone, to shape the tone of the sound separately. So what I like to do is have sort of two versions of the sound. And I'll use the tone from, you know, one side would be like a certain setting. And then on the other side, it'll be a little bit of a different setting. And it's a combination always of a bunch of different things. And mostly it's like the filter position, you know, because I've got these notch filters that happen in the sound that, you know, really create and shape the sort of character of it. So by moving those very slightly, you know, a couple of different ones, and also then driving up the distortion a little bit more, together, that will create just like a slightly sort of B-side version of the sound. So you can morph between them, you know, if you're trying to fit it into your track, you might find that you want to use, you know, one tone more than the other one. So that's why I like to always include that macro on most of my presets. And yeah, if you guys want more presets, you can buy some on my website. There's loads available on there, faceplant ones and vital ones. I stopped making serum ones a while ago because I just didn't really have fun with that synth. For me, Vital's still probably the most easy and fun synth to use, but Faceplant has the most limitless options. So that's why I'm trying to improve my skills with it and share the sounds that I create with you guys directly on here. So anyway, let's jump into it then. So we're using the granular synthesis section again, which is absolutely amazing. And simply you can like set your granular settings up sometimes, and then just scroll up and down through the different samples. Okay, you could get some really cool different movements going on there. But I've created the sound with one in mind, which was the marimba B5. So I'm trying to use all the samples that come with Phase Plant, because then you guys can copy them as well if you want. And also, it's just a bit easier than not having to import a new folder. And there's already so many textures and sounds in here. And when you're dealing with granular synthesis, you're stripping the sound apart anyway. So, any sound will will usually yield some interesting results. So the marimba B5 on the mallet section. And again, what we're doing is we're going to use FM synthesis to route the, I said that like an American, to route the, I said that like an Englishman, to route, I said that like a German, to route the signal from the output of the granular generator into our main oscillator, which is here. It's going to be oscillator 1. Well, it doesn't say that, but oscillator 1, which is a triangle. Okay, so we route it into the phase, just turn it up a little bit, about 21%, because otherwise it's going to be too extreme and not enough. You won't hear the effect. So about 20%. And we've got the, I don't think I've used this. I've used the sync mode a little bit, so it kind of just makes it a little bit more into a saw wave, but just very, very slightly. But it's mostly just a triangle. Okay, and so what I've done with the grains, you can see I've got some modulation from my LFO here, but usually I would actually modulate things on the granular section here, like the amount of grains or the length of them. But on this one, it's quite a simple patch, to be fair, with regards to the granular side of it. So all I've done is just picked like a position in the sample. It's a little bit further to the right, and I've turned the position up just to 1.2. So it will do a little bit of skipping around in a very small segment of the sample, but it won't be completely just on one line. So it will have a bit of a bigger sample space to work from. So we're just going to make it a little bit more natural when I turn that up away from 0. Okay, so the other thing I've done here, which I don't often do but has really helped in this sound, is I've filtered all of the individual sound sources here. So the first one, this is the marimba. It's got like a high pass filter on it, so that comes after the granular synth part here. It just goes up to like 315, but it's going to give a bit more space for our main like low bassy oscillator, which is the top one here, the triangle, which is at -24. So this one has no filtering on. We're leaving all the low end in. But on this guy here, we are essentially taking out a bit of low end, and then, like I said, routing that up to the triangle here. And then this one goes also through another sound source. So we're going to FM this final result out into sine wave here. And again, with the phase, just used a little bit, 15%, but I've just gone the other way. So you can go left or right, and it'll sort of change the tone. That would be a great thing to put on my Tony macro as well. The position of which phase you're using for the FM. But you can just try both, and sometimes left is better, sometimes right is better. But yeah, doing it left on this second one here. So that really just brings us in like an extra harmonic that's sort of higher up, because it's at -12, not -24. So like when we're creating a cool sub bass with extra harmonics, we got that low one and then 1 octave higher. So we've got more of a fuller spectrum of the low end sort of covered with our bass creation. So on top of all that, just a tiny bit of white noise. Yeah, I love to always include white noise, because there's nothing as natural and smooth as a little bit of white noise in your high end. And so again, we filter out the lows here, taking them out. And even if you just use 1%, it's going to be you're going to have a little bit more natural sound than if you don't use any at all. So that's why I always use it. And similarly, on the sort of harmonic sine wave here, our secondary higher up bass part here at -12, I've also done a little bit of a high pass to take out a bit more low end here, also around 300. Just giving a bit more space for that triangle one. Anyway, I wanted to keep this video short, so I'm going to try and move on a bit quicker. The global unison here, we definitely need that. It makes a big impact. Okay, really takes what is quite a dry mono sound and spreads everything together to create much more rich and warmer sound. So I would pretty much always use this. I like the smooth mode the best. The frequency stack is great for extra weird harmonics, but if you want to keep things relatively in line with what you've already done, the smooth mode is great, and you can always blend it in. Even just if you have it 10%, it's going to add a little bit of extra depth. Here it works quite well, quite high up, so I've left it up at about 60%, and it's a little bit of movement on our macro here, but it's not too much of a big thing. Okay, so that's pretty much good to go. So we can jump over to the effects, which is where we'll start to have a little bit of movement on an LFO, just a sort of little up and down, but it's not like super crazy amount of movement in this patch, like I said, because it's like a bass stab thing, you know. So that's how it is sort of without the effects. So let's jump over to lane 1 then, and I'm keeping most of the harmonics in the sound, so I'm not like doing a band pass or a low pass or a high pass. I'm just doing a bit of shaping and adding interest by doing like a notch filter, and making it a bit more like Neurofunk as well, because that kind of lends itself well to the Neurofunk sounds. So this is a let's see where it is, about 315 I think it was before I just moved it, and it's just a little bit of up and down movement on that, and just messing with the cue. Just makes it a little bit more neuro style, and sacrifice a little bit of the frequency content in the mid-range, and thus it gives you a little bit of extra emphasis on the bassiness and the sort of high-end crunch as well. So that's why I like to do that quite often for Neurofunk sound design. Next then is the distortion. So really the best thing about Phase Plant, in my opinion, in the effects section is stacking distortions on top of each other, and doing them in between your effects is the best way to keep things always progressing in a nice way. And if you can add in different distortions with different modes, then you just further refine your sound every time, you know. So the overdrive mode is the cleanest one in my opinion. The first one I start with here. And it's a great way to add in more stereo as well with the distortion, because while you distort it and you turn up the spread a little bit, just to like 20 or 25%, it always just adds a really nice, not only does it add width, but it also glues everything together more when you actually turn up the spread. But I never go too high on it. It's normally always less than halfway for sure. Okay, so that's a nice bit of distortion on there. You know, it's really... it's gone from like sort of 30% up to 60% almost in terms of the whole volume and fullness of the sound, you know, and it's really amplified all the things that we've done before. So, you know, if it's a little bit underwhelming at the beginning with your granular sample and your FM, think about always like when you just start to, you know, get the best out of the sound with distortion, it's going to become a lot better. So you can think about that and be a bit more subtle in the first part of the voicing section, and just know that you're going to create a better result later with the distortion added. Okay, so then next is lane 2, and here we have, I've got like a really small amount of reverb. I just wanted a bit of a tail on it so it was more natural, but this, you can actually turn this up on the macro here. So if I wanted a bit more, you know, it's still pretty quiet to be fair, but I think maybe if I just solo this for a moment, you'll hear it better. Yeah, you start to hear it more there. Yeah, so the convolver, so I could find a natural organic reverb that fit the sound, but again, leaving it mostly off for just for an effect. The ensemble is always great as well. I prefer the sound of it to the chorus, and I'll just play a little bit with the voices, and often leave the detuning and spread how they are. I just sometimes go 4 voices or 5 or 6, it just kind of depending on the sound, and then I'll just mix it in like a small amount. And even if you just chorus things a little bit, it's going to just make everything like slightly more natural, but don't ever go overboard with it or you'll kind of lose all the power. But a little bit is fine, especially when you're going to add more distortion again later. So this non-linear filter is great because it also adds a bit of a drive as well. And simple way to like find the best mode is just keep your sound on loop and just like hover your mouse over the different settings. And when you hover over them, you'll find it will actually preview all of those. Sorry, quick coffee break. May as well finish it before it gets cold. Yeah, you'll find that it's never the same. Like same with distortion modes as well. Like depending on the patch, you're going to get different result from different modes always. So I just cycle between them all. I found that the metallic one here just like made the sound pop really nicely. Okay, a little bit of notch filter movement again, like I've got on the first filter, but you can see the extra harmonics you get here when you drive it up. So on the non-linear filter mode, I always drive it up 100% so I can really hear the effect and what it's doing. Of course, I can back it off a bit if it's too much. But in this case, like 100% was pretty nice. Okay, so it's already pretty much there. It's sort of 80% there, I suppose, now. So we'll just do the final lane. And again, here the delay is just at 1%, so I'm just adding like a tiniest bit of tail. But again, this is on the mix on our wash here. Oh, I forgot to turn the other ones off. But did I just delete one? No, I didn't. Okay, my bad. What was I saying? Yeah, the delay, just 1%, and then using it on the wash a little bit here. Okay, then the next one is really, really wicked, and this is the comb filter. And sometimes I try to sort of mix it in at 50% or so and just have a bit of the comb effect. But I kind of lost some bass power. Like when I was doing it halfway, it felt like it was sort of phasing a bit and I lost a lot of power in the low end. So I thought it's either got to be on or off. And so I was a bit bold and I turned it on all the way to 100. But then when you do that, you've really got to pay attention to the frequency amount that you choose. Because some points it just sounds like too much like coma filter world, you know? So, but if you get a nice number going on, where the bass is still sort of really prioritized and you don't like lose too much of it, like around here, it sounded wicked to me. And a little bit of movement on the number as well, so it's kind of pitching up and down a little bit essentially. Okay, you hear the way it's added a whole like extra level of harmonics and movement to the sound. A little bit like unnatural in a way because it's a comb filter, but at the same time, I like how it's moving the frequencies around for me. So it's quite an automatic sound to just make things a little bit more sci-fi in a way, you know. Anyway, there's a bit of distortion on top of that. This is really gonna pump it up a lot more. Okay, so this is taking it all the way up to sort of 100% now. It's probably actually gone from like 65% up to 95% now with this one. So because it's the sine mode, it's one of the most powerful distortion settings in Phase Plant. So it does really make a big volume boost. But providing you've made quite a smooth sound before, you'll be able to use it and just get even more crazy like bass power with it. So love the way that sounds. And also the bias plays a big role in this because it's quite a different sound if I'd have left that at 0. So the bias will help you shape the tone of the distortion one step further. Often I don't mess with it. I kind of leave it at 0, but with the sine mode specifically, I find it makes a big difference on where you have the bias. So on this mode of distortion, I'll always check, and I found that at 100, it was a little bit more cohesive, a little bit more centralized, the bass, you know. It's still got all that stereo character, but the main sort of bulk of it is a bit more centralized and powerful in the middle. And at a 0, it was a bit more spread and a bit wider from all the ensemble and things like that. So this kind of brought it back a little bit to the center for me. So I like that. And simply a tiny bit of boosting the high end at the end because, it's like mostly the harmonics that we've been focusing on are the bass a lot of the time. I'm trying to always amplify and emphasize that. So then at the end as a final tweak, I'll sometimes just whack up the highs a little bit. Not like massively, but enough to just get that extra crunch in the high end that you might want to get the Americano crunch, which is the name of this preset. And that's pretty much, I think, the whole process explained for that one. So yeah, really, really sick one though. Might have to use this one in a track. If any of you guys on my Discord would like it, just write me on there, and I'll post the preset on there. If not, I'll save it for like a future phase plant pack or something like that. But yeah, you can feel free to go ahead and copy it, or you've got all the tools there to do it. So if you like the bass, you can go ahead and make it, or you can just take some of the concepts and ideas that I talked about and apply them to your own sound design journey as well, which is probably the most productive way to go about it. Also, if you want to get really, really technical and learn a bit more with me, you can book in a session up above. Links are there. You know the deal. One-on-one sessions always a great way to level up and take your sound to the next level. So anyway, I hope you enjoyed that today, my G's. And I'll continue to do some experimenting and see if I can get some more juicy goodness out of this synth and try out some new methods. And yeah, leave some comments down below if you've discovered anything. Would love to know and try some new stuff out. So then I can have my own sort of take on it and then share it with you guys. See what I created, and yeah, hopefully we can keep exploring and learning this synth together and improve our synthesis together.